Hey y'all, here are OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the BlitzWolf BW-FYE16. That name is a mouthful, but what makes it unique is obviously a built-in display on the front that you can use to more easily control some of the properties, such as finding the left and right sides. You can use it to act as a remote for your smartphone when taking selfies, for example, if connected to Bluetooth on your device, and you can also play back media as well as control volume and ANC plus EQ settings a little bit more easily directly on the case without fiddling around with the phone. It also is pretty affordable, selling for just around $26 at the moment. Although some may think a LED display on a pair of wireless buds is a little extra and perhaps gimmicky, there are other brands including JBL that have been experimenting with it now for quite a while. Many of their current generation buds, including Tor Pro 3 as well as the Live Series 3, have had a display on the front of the case for a while. Not to mention, it's rumored that the next generation of Apple's AirPod Pros may come with a display on the front as well for similar reasons, making it a little easier to control. So this might be a trend we start to see more of, but only time will tell whether these leaks come to fruition or not. I will say that other players have also started to experiment with a similar design, including even Xiaomi, because aside from remote controlling your phone's camera, acting as a, again, Bluetooth selfie, you're also able to have certain reminders and notifications passed over to the display from the phone on this particular Xiaomi variant. So that's similar to what a smartwatch can offer. That being said, of course, you won't find any biometric sensors on the casing here. Although, interestingly enough, we have seen past generations of wireless buds with features like heart rate tracking and sleep tracking from brands like Anker, Soundcore, as well as even Amazfit. So maybe there will be a true all-in-one pair of buds coming out in the future that even has those features tucked in as well. But anyways, pretty interesting, and again, Xiaomi's version claims you can even locate the buds more easily. Regardless, coming back to the version from BlitzWolf, I would say it is heavily inspired by the aforementioned JBL pairs, but that's not a bad thing per se. They do have active noise cancellation as well, so again, the cost of these wireless buds have come down significantly over the years, and now you can find one that is pretty fully stacked and not have to really pay an arm or leg to get decent quality. It claims 32 hours of battery life with the casing, which is decent, comparable to AirPods, but of course the screen is also draining a little bit of extra power. It's not going to be the longest battery that we've ever seen, but decent, I would say. And it comes with a few different wallpapers that you can also change it between for more customization. What I will say though is that the BlitzWolf variant does not have a companion app, and otherwise on a continuous usage, the buds will last for 8 hours before you have to pop it in for a quick top-up. Although with ANC turned on, the continuous listening time is closer to around 7 hours or so, and they claim that the touch controls allow you to play pause music, answer phone calls, skip track, but it looks like volume control won't be present in the built-in navigation, so you have to rely on the touchscreen of the case to do that. Some final rated specs on the back of the box state that it's using Bluetooth version 5.4, pretty up to date, and also 10mm single drivers inside. Last but not least, the buds also come in two colors. Aside from black, there's also more of this silver/gray version that you can pick between. So inside the packaging, aside from the buds themselves, you will also find just some spare silicone tips to get a more snug fit, as well as a USB Type-C charging cable and a quick start guide. And since there's no companion app, you simply connect to Bluetooth settings on any Bluetooth-enabled device, including iOS, Android phones, as well as computers. Basically, any operating system is supported as long as you have Bluetooth on board. And taking a closer look at the design, it's crafted out of a soft-touch kind of polycarbonate shell, plastic, but it's a little bit more grippy, so it's easy to hold. The back here also features some extra padding that really provides grip and prevents it from sliding around onto a surface or desk when you're charging it. A Type-C port at the bottom, as well as a reset button, can also be found. Now, what I will say is that charging times for the battery case are interestingly a little bit longer than I'm used to. I think part of that is because of the slightly larger capacity to accommodate the added components for the screen. But if the battery case reaches 0%, it takes around 3 to 4 hours to fully charge it back up, which is definitely a little longer compared to the 1 to 2 hours we see on most other compact wireless buds. Just as a quick size comparison, here they are next to regular AirPods, so as you can tell, at least it's not overly bulky versus something like this. You can still slide it into pockets for the most part without too many issues. And here it is next to a phone, a pretty average 6.5-inch device, just to serve as a reference. So the screen here automatically turns on when you double tap on it, or when you first open up the door, it will wake up, and when you shut it closed, it will automatically turn off. It's relatively responsive, and again, when you open up the door, the buds will automatically turn on as well and begin to pair with your device. So the Bluetooth connection process is pretty fast. If we take a quick look at the design of the buds here first, they're held into place magnetically, and they have a relatively simple design. The stem here, again, is touch sensitive. It is fairly lightweight and constructed entirely out of plastic, with a bit of a silicone wing bear on the outside that provides a bit of grip when you're wearing it, doesn't feel too loose, and for the most part was comfortable enough for a few hours of listening without adding too much stress or strain in my testing. Now you can tell that the mesh in here is also constructed out of fabric. It's a fairly clean but simple design. Here they are next to, again, regular AirPods. You can tell the stem, by contrast, is a little bit shorter. And now just a closer look at the UI of the case. There is a slide to unlock animation to provide some extra security and preventing accidental touches if you have it in your pocket, for example. And some of the main pages here, we start off in the beginning, includes a play pause media control. Up top, you can also tell the battery percentage remaining in the battery case, the left and right sides, as well as the time information. So that is one advantage, is you have a clearer percentage gauge compared to many of the other buds that relies on LEDs to give you a approximation that you have to really estimate. So that is nice to have. And you can also slide again to control the volume level, higher or lower on the buds themselves there. The UI is actually relatively responsive. Again, it's not too dissimilar from having a smartwatch baked into the casing of these wireless buds. And also you're able to turn on and off the active noise cancellation or the audio transparency mode that uses the microphones to amplify the sound around you so you can have a conversation without removing the buds, which generally works well enough. The next tab over is the aforementioned equalizer controls. By default, it will start off in the balanced mode, but you can have the bass boosted, a studio mode, which goes for more accuracy, as well as jazz. Vocal-centric will prefer the trebles, and kind of then cycling back and forth. There isn't really a custom EQ profile that you can change the sliders or the frequency range yourself, but it gets the basics done. The next tab over is going to be the aforementioned sleep timer, so you can set up different durations, for example, and after the countdown, it will kind of give you a slight chime. The alarm here can also be customized for a 5-minute interval or a 10-minute interval. 30 as well as 60 are the different durations that you can set. Now, swiping again allows us to change the brightness level of the display on the battery case, which for the most part is actually pretty solid for such a low-cost pair of buds, that is. Visibility, even if there's a bit of glare, can still be mostly used, and it is an IPS LCD panel, so viewing angles don't seem to be too problematic and gets the job done. Swiping again allows us to change the language of the UI that we see on the battery case. You have a couple of options here that we can cycle between, and again, for the most part, it's actually surprisingly not bad when it comes to responsiveness. Swiping again takes us into the aforementioned wallpapers for the unlock screen that we can play around with. For instance, here is the default, which is displaying a kind of cute, looks like rabbit there that's just jumping around and then falling into its own hole. And we can change that instead to another one, which is a bit more avant-garde, of a man, and we can then swipe the block over to unlock instead. Once more into just the fish animation that we kind of started off with. So those are the 3 wallpapers that you have built into the device's storage. Now that is one area where I do wish, again, they would have a companion app available maybe in a future gen model, because it would be nice to customize it with even more watch dials per se, or your own image as the background. But as it is, because there is no companion app, you only have the options provided here. The next tab over is finding the buds. So if you've lost them underneath the sofa, for example, you can tap on begin, and it will start to play back a chime on that corresponding pair of buds, slowly increasing when it comes to the volume level until you've located it. So it can be neat if they're connected to the case, that is. So it's kind of a dual connection situation going on, where the buds are paired with the case, and the case is also connected using regular Bluetooth 5.0 to your phone. So it seems to be responsive enough for what it is. And the next tab over is the time and date settings that you can also change just by tapping here. Again, since there is no companion app, you have to kind of do this manually, so it's not quite as sleek as perhaps desired, but you can, again, change that just by using the scroll wheel here on the side. Next tab over allows you to like a certain track that you're playing back, and that will be remembered, and then going into the selfie mode. And serving as a demonstration here, after we're paired via Bluetooth, you can tell that you're able to then snap away using the case as a controller. So if you are standing further back, you can put this onto a selfie stick, for instance, and take selfies or group shots a little bit more easily. We can also trigger a flashlight mode that turns the display white. Similar to on smartwatches, it can illuminate objects just a little bit in the dark and then loops back into the media playback controls. So it's actually working a little bit better than expected. And also the media controls on the phone, if you change the volume from there, also get triggered and mirrored on the case display as well. So easy enough to use. Now when it comes to the actual audio quality, it also fares decently. They're not going to blow you away if you are used to more audiophile grade buds, but for the most part connectivity was quite stable, didn't get really any disconnections thanks to a fairly modern Bluetooth 5 chip. As budget buds though, it is using standard Bluetooth codecs like AAC and SBC, as opposed to having something high-res like aptX HD or LDAC. You won't find that here, but overall transmission felt stable, and the actual quality of the drivers were also pleasant enough for just general pop music, casual EDM, as well as rock music. It gets sufficiently loud, and there's a bit of depth to the lower frequency sounds as well. It's not too overpowering, as long as you have reasonable expectations and aren't too nitpicky. Again, getting good enough. There's not too much distortion or static in the background, so pretty clean sounding for the most part. Now, when it comes to the active noise cancellation, I would say it's also performing decently in terms of lower frequency sounds like engines. Fan noises do get repressed quite well, although voices and higher frequency sounds can still pop in a little bit as part of this technology. Really not bad for something so low cost. I would say compared to perhaps the JBLs that they are derived from, they get around 80% of the audio experience as well as the ANC effectiveness, but again, this is going to be significantly cheaper as well. And if BlitzWolf comes out with the next generation model, I would like to see some type of notification support. Again, a feature that we have touched on earlier in this video, but it's not found on this particular model, as well as, again, perhaps some companion app functionality would be neat. But all in all, again, a fairly good showing for a really low-cost pair of buds. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.